Hey guys, what's up? Hope everybody's having a good day out there today. Thanks for tuning back in, really appreciate it. And today I'm going to give some advanced high-level co-angler tips that'll definitely help you if you fish co-angler any out of the back of the boat. It'll definitely help you catch a lot more fish. Also, if you don't fish tournaments and you fish out of the back of the boat with your buddy, it'll help you catch more fish in that situation too. So anyway, before we get started, just a couple different housekeeping tips here. Just wanted to remind everybody, if you guys are looking for any fishing tackle right now, I'm going to include the Baitworks link in the description here. It's the greatest tackle store I've ever been in. Man, they got everything you could possibly need there. You can check out the link that I provide here. If you order off of that link, it helps the channel out here get a small percentage of the profit, so it's a good way to support the channel here. Much appreciated. And also just wanted to throw a reminder, when we hit 45,000 subscribers, which it looks like it's going to be probably about a week and a half from now, got another big giveaway. Got cases of Bridgeford beef jerky going to be given away, Seagar fishing line. All you have to do to be entered for that drawing next week is just to subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed, you're entered. If you want to subscribe, you'll be entered at there, so much appreciated. Okay, let's talk about advanced co-angler tips here. We've had this conversation before, and I'm not a fan at all of having co-anglers in tournament situations, because co-anglers, they create an unlevel playing field. Some co-anglers are super aggressive and they really force their pro to fish how they wouldn't fish normally to protect their water. And some co-anglers are not aggressive at all, and you don't even know they're back there. So you may have one situation where you got a guy that basically is a co-angler and he's just like an observer, and you've got another guy that's pressuring you every single cast, and you have to protect your water constantly. So from that standpoint, I don't like co-anglers in the tournament situation. But given the reality, the fact that we have co-anglers in the circuits that I'm fishing, the Bassmaster Opens and the Toyota Series, and there's a lot of different co-anglers around the country, I want to give the co-angler some high-level advice that will definitely help you catch more fish, regardless of the pro you draw. If you draw a pro that is sort of tough to fish with and he's aggressive, or if you have an easy to fish pro, either one of these is going to help you. So the first thing that I want to share with you guys is when your pro is fishing down a bank, and I don't care if they're parallel on the bank or fishing at a 45-degree angle or whatever, don't ever try to cast up towards the front of the boat, because not only is this just rude, but more importantly, what it does, it takes away the odds of you catching a fish simply because of your angle. From the back of the boat, you do not have the angle that you need to generate that strike. The first thing you want to do, and one of the biggest tips I can give you guys as co-anglers, is when your pro is working down a bank, don't even think about casting from the mid part of the boat up. What you want to do, and all the co-anglers I fish with that have done this, I fished with 5 co-anglers that have won the tournament with me, they're basically fishing straight out the back of the boat. Because what happens, if you fish out the back of the boat and you basically just turn around like towards where the motor's at, and you start fishing the bank at that angle, you're getting the exact same angle that the pro is getting, but you're coming at that particular bank at a different angle, which a lot of times can generate more strikes. The thing that you have to work out with your pro, and I tell my co-anglers this all the time, is if you get hung up, the pro will go back and get your bait. I tell them that all the time. I say, guys, cast behind the boat. If you guys get hung up, I have no problem getting your bait. That's one of the biggest things. And what happens is you've got an area to fish back there that you're at the best angle, and you're totally not competing against your pro to fish. That is by far the one of the biggest tips that I can give you right there. All of the great co-anglers I've ever fished with are like this. I mean, so try to formulate that in your game plan. The second with that is, and that's the most important thing about that, because here's what happens, guys, is if I get a pro in my boat, a co-angler in my boat that does that, and they come across, they say, Randy, I'm not going to do anything to rush you or try to catch fish off of places you're trying to fish. Guys, I'll do anything I can to help those guys catch fish. I'll I'll give them baits that I'm using. I'll make suggestions to them. I'll give them advice. But if they're trying to compete with me and they're trying, if I'm fishing a laydown in front of the boat and I need to make 20 casts to that laydown, and the first time that I pitch to that laydown, their bait lands a foot away from mine, I'm going to put them in position where they're not going to catch any fish. I'm going to maneuver the boat and take them out of position to do that and not do anything to help them. Simply because I'm there to catch fish. That's how I put food on my family's table. I'm not there to help my co-angler catch fish if they're trying to catch the fish that I'm catching. If they're fishing behind the boat, I'm not fishing for those fish. They can have whatever I left behind because I'm no longer fishing for those fish. So that's the mentality I got. So second to that is your bait selection with that. You don't ever want to try to match your pro with what they're throwing unless you're fishing an open water situation. If you're fishing targets like rocks, docks, stumps, laydowns, that type of stuff, you have got to throw something different than your pro. That could be, he could be using a big jig and you could use a finesse jig, or your pro could be using a shaky head and you could pitch a Nico rig in there. Or he could be throwing a square bill crankbait and you might throw a rattle trap. You always got to pay attention to what your pro is doing and try to do something else when you're fishing targets. Now that's not the same on the offshore fishing. And here's the tips I'll give you for offshore fishing. Is if you are fishing offshore, say you're fishing a big grass flat, or you're fishing just a big rock flat, or whatever, that type of stuff. The same thing holds true. Don't ever try to cast up in front of the boat, guys. I have been in so many situations where I'd be out in the middle of a grass flat and there's literally grass 360 degrees around us. And if I cast, at a certain angle in front of the boat, they always feel like they have to cast next to me. The first thing I'll do is I'll turn around and say, look, you've got the entire area around the boat to fish. Let's try to keep our baits as far away from the other person as we can, because if baits land too close to each other, I'm convinced that you don't catch bass like that. So it's the same deal there. If you're fishing offshore, guys, don't try to cast up in front of your partner again. Just throw out off the back of the boat. You've got 3 different angles to cast from when you're fishing these big flats or you're fishing grass or whatever like that. There's something sort of instinctive in a lot of co-anglers that they feel that they have to cast where their pros casting to catch fish, and that's not the case. All the great co-anglers that I've ever fished with before, they fish their own fish. They don't pay any attention to what I'm doing. They don't pay any attention to how I'm fishing or what I'm doing. They're in the back of the boat doing their own deal. I don't even know they're there. So that's just the two quick tips, guys. Cast out the back of the boat, stay in the back of the boat, get the right angle. Don't try to cast up in front of your partners, and use different lures. I mean, if you do that, you're going to be a lot more successful than anyone else, because I can promise you right now, if you're a co-angler and you try to compete with your pro for water that's in the front of the boat, you're going to have a miserable day, because that's just not going to work for either one of you. So just sort of go into it with a different attitude about it. One of the best things you can do as a co-angler is go into that tournament trying to be an information sponge. Just try to come away from that day learning more than you ever can, because like I said, in my own opinion, I'll do anything I can to teach somebody or help them out if they don't try to undermine what I'm trying to do on the water. If they try to undermine what I'm trying to do when I'm fishing, they're not going to get any help from me. And I think that's I think most pros probably agree with me on that. So hope that helps out if you guys are fishing co-anglers. I think it will. It's worked. I've seen it work over and over again. It's been reproducible for me, just observing people that fish with me. And I think there's some pretty solid tips. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Much appreciated. And we'll see y'all later.